The champagne bubbled mockingly in my glass as Mom's birthday toast turned into another lecture about my life choices. We were seated at Romano's, the upscale Italian restaurant where my family celebrated all major occasions. The same restaurant whose expansion I'd quietly funded through my venture capital firm 6 months earlier. 65 years old today, Mom announced to our table of 12, and I'm so proud of my children's accomplishments. She beamed at my brother Derek, who straightened his tie with practiced smugness. At 33, Derek was a mid-level marketing manager at a regional insurance company, pulling in a respectable $78,000 a year, a figure he'd mentioned at least 4 times since we'd ordered appetizers. Derek just closed the Morrison account, Mom continued. Biggest client his department's ever landed. Real career growth, real stability. Derek nodded modestly while his wife Jennifer smiled adoringly. They'd driven here in their leased BMW, the monthly payments for which probably matched what I spent on coffee beans for my office. And then there's Sophia. Mom's voice shifted, taking on that patient tone reserved for discussing disappointing relatives. Still playing entrepreneur with her little business. The word little hit exactly as intended. I took a sip of the Dom Perignon I'd ordered for the table. A bottle that cost more than Derek's monthly car payment, and said nothing. It's not really a business though, is it? Aunt Carol chimed in from across the table. More like a hobby that pays for itself? Carol's husband Bob laughed. These kids today with their startups. Remember when people just got real jobs? I'd been running Innovate Tech Capital for 4 years, but to my family, it was Sophia's computer thing. They knew I worked from a home office, traveled frequently, and seemed to have flexible hours. In their minds, this translated to not a real job. I keep telling her to apply for positions at established companies, Dad added, cutting into his osso buco. Derek could probably get her an interview at his firm. Entry level, of course, but everyone has to start somewhere. Entry level. At 29, after building a portfolio worth north of $200 million, they wanted me to start at entry level. The problem with Sophia is she's always been too independent, Mom continued, warming to her favorite topic. She needs to accept guidance from people who understand how the real world works. Derek cleared his throat importantly. I've actually been thinking about this. Sophia, I could introduce you to our HR department. Insurance isn't tech, but companies need IT support. You'd probably be perfect for help desk work. Help desk work. My brother, who still called me when his laptop needed updates, was offering to help me find a job in tech support. That's so generous, Derek, Jennifer gushed. Sophia's lucky to have a brother who cares enough to help her find real employment. I watched Derek preen under the praise, completely oblivious to the fact that my little business had just closed a series of funding round for a biotechnology startup that would revolutionize cancer treatment. The deal was worth $47 million. My commission alone would fund Derek's current lifestyle for the next decade. You know what your problem is, Sophia? Uncle Mike had apparently decided to join the intervention. You're afraid of commitment. Real success requires stability, routine, showing up to the same office every day. Mike's right, Mom agreed. Look at Derek. Promoted twice in 3 years because he understands professional responsibility. Derek's 2 promotions had resulted in a total salary increase of $12,000. Last month, my firm had been featured in Forbes as one of the top 10 VC firms reshaping technology investment. The article was framed in my office, but my family had never visited my office. I just worry about your future, Mom continued, her voice taking on that martyred quality. You're almost 30, Sophia. When are you going to stop pretending and build something real? Something real. Like the 7 companies I'd helped launch, 3 of which had gone public. Like the innovation fund I managed that had generated returns averaging 43% annually. Like the technology incubator program I'd established that had created over 300 jobs in emerging markets. Maybe it's time for some tough love, Derek suggested, leaning back in his chair with the confidence of someone who'd never risked anything more significant than a fantasy football league entry fee. Sophia, this entrepreneurship phase has gone on long enough. You need to face reality. I set down my champagne glass and smiled. Tomorrow morning, Forbes would release their annual 40 under 40 list. I'd received the advance notification 3 days ago, along with the request for a photo shoot and interview. My phone buzzed with a text from my assistant. Forbes feature goes live at 6 a.m. Congratulations again, boss. Perfect timing. The birthday dinner continued for another torturous hour, each family member taking turns to offer their wisdom about my career prospects. I nodded politely while they dissected my life choices with the confidence of people who'd never started anything more complex than a book club. You know who really has it figured out? Cousin Lisa said, pointing her fork at Derek. Someone who understood that success comes from working within established systems. Derek glowed under the attention. It's all about playing the long game. Building relationships, proving your value to people who matter. People who matter. If only he knew that 3 of his company's biggest competitors were portfolio companies in my fund. Exactly. Mom exclaimed. That's what I keep trying to tell Sophia. Success isn't about chasing fantasies, it's about building something lasting. Aunt Carol leaned toward me conspiratorially. Honey, it's not too late. Derek's company is expanding. I'm sure there's a place for someone with your computer skills. Computer skills. I managed a 200-person firm with offices in San Francisco, Austin, and Singapore. My computer skills had helped identify and fund the 3 fastest-growing AI companies in the biomedical sector. The thing is, Uncle Mike added, entrepreneurship is really just unemployment with a fancy name. Eventually you need steady income and benefits. Steady income. My quarterly distributions from the fund exceeded Derek's annual salary. My benefits package included a private jet membership and a medical concierge service that Derek's insurance company would consider fantasy. I read an article about this, Jennifer said, pulling out her phone. Most small businesses fail within 5 years. The statistics are really scary. She was probably reading about local businesses, bakeries, consulting firms, retail shops. She had no framework for understanding venture capital technology investment, or the difference between a lifestyle business and a growth fund. That's why established companies are safer, Dad said. Derek's got security, advancement opportunities, a clear path forward. Derek's clear path forward involved maybe making partner in his regional office sometime in the next decade, assuming his company didn't get acquired by one of the larger firms I'd been courting for my portfolio. Plus, there's respect, Mom added. When people ask what Derek does, he can give a clear answer. When they ask about Sophia, she gestured vaguely as if my career was too abstract for normal human comprehension. What do you tell people anyway? Lisa asked. When they ask what you do for work. I'd been dreading this question all evening. How do you explain venture capital to people who think entrepreneurship is a phase you grow out of? I invest in technology companies, I said simply. The table went quiet for a moment, processing this information through their limited understanding of business and finance. Like with your savings? Bob asked. As a hobby? Sort of like day trading? Jennifer suggested helpfully. Derek laughed. Sophia, you can't call playing the stock market a career. That's just gambling. Stock market. They thought I was sitting at my computer buying and selling shares like a retail investor with a Robinhood account. It's not really investing unless you have significant capital, Uncle Mike explained to the table. Real investment requires serious money. Serious money. My personal net worth had crossed 8 figures 18 months ago. The fund I managed controlled assets approaching $500 million. That's what I keep saying, Mom agreed. Sophia needs to focus on earning real money before she can think about investing it. Exactly, Derek said. First you build your career, establish your income, then maybe you can afford to play around with investments as a side hobby. A side hobby. Last week, I'd been invited to keynote a conference on emerging technologies and venture capital strategy. The speaking fee alone would have covered Derek's monthly mortgage payment. I think you should seriously consider Derek's offer, Dad said. A real job with real benefits. Stop this investment hobby and start building something substantial. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my assistant. CNN wants to interview you about the Forbes feature tomorrow. Should I confirm for 9 a.m.? I put the phone away without responding. Tomorrow morning, when the Forbes list went live, my family would discover exactly how substantial my hobby had become. You're right, I told Derek, raising my glass for a final toast. Tomorrow's going to be very educational about what constitutes real success. Derek smiled, completely missing the edge in my voice. That's the spirit, Sophia. Ready to join the real world. More ready than you can imagine. My phone started ringing at 5:47 a.m. The first call was from my publicist confirming the morning show appearances. The second was from a Bloomberg reporter wanting a quote about venture capital trends. By 6:15, my inbox had exploded with interview requests, congratulatory messages and collaboration proposals. Forbes had released their 40 under 40 list right on schedule. I was number 7. The article featured a full-page photo of me in my San Francisco office, standing in front of the wall displaying logos of our portfolio companies, brands that Derek probably used daily without realizing the connection. The headline read, "Sophia Chin, the venture capitalist reshaping how we think about technology investment." The accompanying article detailed my track record: 43 successful investments, 12 exits totaling over $800 million, 3 IPOs in the last 18 months alone. They'd included quotes from CEOs calling me visionary and the most strategic investor in emerging tech. My personal net worth was listed at $34 million. At 7:23 a.m. Derek called. "Sophia." His voice sounded strained. "Did you see? Is there a Forbes article about someone with your name?" "Good morning, Derek. Happy day after Mom's birthday. Is it really you? The venture capitalist? The $34 million. I was sitting in my home office, the one they'd always dismissed as a spare room where I played computer games, watching my phone light up with calls from CNBC, Wall Street Journal, and TechCrunch. "It's me," I said simply. Silence. Then, but you said you had a small business. You said you invested in technology companies." "I do invest in technology companies. 43 of them so far. But the money, how did you?" "I built it, Derek. The same way you built your career at the insurance company, except my little hobby turned out to be worth slightly more than your annual salary." More silence. I could hear Jennifer in the background, her voice high-pitched and panicked. "Is that really her? Is that really Sophia?" "Mom wants to talk to you," Derek said finally. "I'm sure she does. Tell her I'm in back-to-back interviews with financial news outlets today. Discussing my hobby with people who matter." "Sophia, we didn't know." "You didn't know because you never asked. You decided what my life looked like and never bothered to learn the actual facts." My call waiting beeped. "I have to go, Derek. Unlike help desk work, venture capital requires me to be available when opportunity calls." I hung up and took the CNN interview. By 10 a.m., I'd spoken with 4 major news outlets about technology investment trends and the future of venture capital. Each interviewer introduced me as one of the most successful young investors in Silicon Valley. At 11:30, my assistant called with an update: 12 more interview requests, including 60 minutes. "Also, your mother has called the office 6 times asking for your schedule. Tell her I'm booked through next month. I'll call when my schedule opens up. Also, your brother Derek's company called asking about investment opportunities for their retirement plan management." I laughed. Derek's company wanted access to my fund. The same fund he'd dismissed as gambling less than 24 hours earlier. "Tell them we're not taking new institutional clients at this time." "Got it. Oh, and Forbes wants to do a follow-up feature about young entrepreneurs building generational wealth." Generational wealth. Not bad for someone who'd been playing entrepreneur with her little hobby business. The calls from my family continued for 3 weeks. Mom left increasingly desperate voicemails explaining that she'd always believed in my potential. Dad sent lengthy emails about how proud he'd always been of my independence. Derek left stammering messages about misunderstandings and family support. I didn't return any of them. Instead, I focused on the opportunities flowing from the Forbes recognition. 3 major pension funds wanted meetings about portfolio diversification. Stanford Business School invited me to guest lecture on venture capital strategy. The President's Economic Advisory Council requested my input on technology innovation policy. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same week my family had offered to help me find entry-level work, the White House had asked for my expertise on economic policy. A month after Mom's birthday dinner, I received a handwritten letter from her. She'd apparently learned that handwritten notes carried more weight than phone calls or emails. The letter was 3 pages of apologies, explanations, and invitations to talk things through as a family. I wrote back on my company letterhead. Dear Mom, thank you for your letter. I appreciate the apology, but I'm not interested in rebuilding relationships with people who spent years dismissing my achievements while celebrating mediocrity. Derek can keep his help desk job recommendations. You can keep your advice about real careers. I'll keep building generational wealth through my little hobby. Best regards, Sophia Chen. Managing Partner, Innovate Tech Capital. I never heard from them again. Sometimes the best investment is knowing when to cut your losses.